When your dog stares at you from across the room, have you ever wondered what's really going on inside their head? Because what science has discovered in recent years isn't just fascinating, it's the kind of thing that changes your perspective forever. And today we're going way beyond what any average dog owner typically knows. So stay with us, because what you're about to hear will make the next time you look your dog in the eyes feel completely different. Hey, hold on a second. Before you keep watching, I need to ask you something important. Does your dog have some totally unexplainable behavior you've never been able to figure out? Like following you everywhere, or somehow knowing exactly when you're sad before you say a single word? Has that ever happened to you? Tell me about it in the comments, because today that mystery is finally getting an answer. And if you're new here, hit like on this video so more people can discover this too. Let's get into it. Let's be honest. Most people assume their dog sees them as simply their owner, their housemate, the person who fills the food bowl. But that picture is so incomplete, it's almost unfair to what's really happening. There's a comparison people make a lot with cats, that felines see you as just a bigger, clumsier, mostly hairless cat. That in their minds, there's no special category for humans, they just lump us in with the rest of the animals in their environment. But with dogs, the story is radically different, and understanding that difference changes everything. What researchers have come to understand is that dogs didn't just learn to tolerate our presence throughout history, they did something far deeper. They evolved specifically for us. Through a process of coexistence spanning more than 15,000 years, dogs developed an entirely new set of social behaviors designed exclusively for interacting with human beings. Scientists call this the human-canine bond, and it's a phenomenon with no parallel anywhere in the animal kingdom. Think about it this way: no other animal on the planet has adapted its biology, its behavior, and its neurology so precisely to relate to another species. Not dolphins, who are extraordinarily intelligent. Not chimpanzees, who share 98% of our DNA. Nobody else, only the dog. And this has implications that go far beyond what you might initially imagine. Brian Hare, a cognitive scientist at Duke University who has dedicated much of his career to studying canine intelligence, has documented something that feels almost unsettling when you sit with it. Dogs have a unique ability to read human social cues that not even our closest primate relatives can match. Here's a thought experiment. Point at something, anything. Now imagine making that same gesture to a chimpanzee. What happens? The chimpanzee looks at your finger, full stop. It doesn't follow the direction you're indicating. It doesn't understand the intention behind the gesture. Its brain simply isn't wired for that. Now imagine making that same gesture to a wolf that was raised from birth in the company of humans, surrounded by people from its very first days. The result? Exactly the same. The wolf looks at your finger and stops there. But your dog follows the gesture, looks toward where you're pointing, understands that you're saying, look over there, that there's a communicative intention behind that movement, that you're trying to share information. And according to experts, that's not something dogs learn to do after living with us. It's something they evolved to be able to do. Your dog doesn't just live alongside you. Your dog was shaped, generation after generation, to understand you, to read your intentions, to interpret your language. When they look at you, they don't see a stranger who provides food and shelter. They see you, with all the depth that implies. And if that already seems impressive, what comes next is going to surprise you even more. Close your eyes for a moment and picture this scene. It's 8 in the morning, you grab your keys, put on your shoes, and head toward the door. And then it happens. Those ears go up, those eyes track your every step, and that tail starts moving with a mix of excitement and something that isn't quite happiness. You know the look. It's the one that breaks your heart every time you leave the house. For a long time, scientists simplified this under the label of separation anxiety and left it there as if it were just a stress reaction without any deeper meaning. But when researchers started asking the right questions, when they began monitoring dogs during the hours their owners were away, what they found was completely unexpected. Cortisol levels, the stress hormones, spike in dogs within minutes of their owner walking out the door. Heart rate increases. The body enters a state of sustained alertness, as if something fundamentally important had gone out of alignment in the universe, and the dog knew it perfectly well. And this is where things get truly interesting. Researchers recorded audio of different people speaking and played it back to dogs left home alone. Any human voice calmed the animals somewhat, that's true. But when the owner's voice played specifically, stress levels dropped significantly. It wasn't the sound of humans in general that made the difference. It was their voice. Unique, unmistakable, registered somewhere in the canine brain as the most important frequency in the world. And it doesn't stop there, because a dog's sense of smell tells the same story, only in an even more intimate way. A study conducted at Emory University set out to map which types of sense activated the reward center in the canine brain. That neurological center that lights up when something brings us pleasure, positive anticipation, pure happiness. Researchers presented dogs with different olfactory stimuli, other dogs, food, unfamiliar humans, and the scent of their own owner, which was the only scent that consistently and powerfully activated the reward center. It wasn't food, it wasn't another dog, it was the owner's scent. Your biological aroma, that unique and unrepeatable combination of molecules that makes you you, is literally what your dog's brain associates with the most genuine pleasure it knows. So when your dog curls up in your clothes while you're gone, when they seek out your pillow, when they lie in that corner where you always sit, they're not just waiting. They're holding on to you in the only way they can when you're not physically present. They carry you with them in the sounds they remember, in the scent they keep, in the behavioral patterns they've learned to associate with your presence. They're not waiting at the door for you. They're holding on to you until you walk back through it. Here's a piece of psychology you might not have known. When human beings look at someone else's face, our eyes tend to drift first toward the left side of that face. Not the left side from our perspective, but the left side of the face we're looking at. Scientists call this the left gaze bias, and it's completely automatic. It happens without us even noticing. Why does it happen? Because the right hemisphere of the human brain, the one that processes emotions, controls the left side of the body and of the face. And evolutionarily, we learn that side of the face is the most emotionally expressive. So our gaze goes there first, instinctively. Now, guess what your dog does when they look at you? Exactly the same thing, but with one extraordinary nuance. When researchers showed dogs images of human faces, faces of other dogs, and various objects, the animals consistently showed the left gaze bias, but only with human faces. Not with the faces of their fellow dogs, not with objects, only with human faces. What that means is astonishing. Dogs developed a specifically human-directed way of reading facial emotions, one they don't use for any other species, not even other dogs. It's as if they have a special visual processing mode that activates exclusively when they're in front of one of us. And that processing mode is extraordinarily sophisticated. Dogs can distinguish between a happy human face and an angry one, even in photographs of complete strangers they've never seen before in their lives. They know what a furrowed brow means without anyone explicitly teaching them. They recognize tension in the jaw muscles, the brightness or dullness in the eyes, the position of the eyebrows. They're reading micro-expressions that humans often aren't even aware they're making. So the next time you're having a hard day, one of those days where you'd rather not talk, where you tell everyone you're fine when you're not, and your dog comes quietly to your side, rests their head in your lap, and simply stays there. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't random instinct. It wasn't luck. Your dog read your face, processed the information, made a decision, and chose to be by your side. There's something profoundly beautiful in that idea, and also something that should make us think about how deeply these animals actually know us. Wait. Are you taking this in? Because this part has me completely blown away. Tell me something. Has there ever been a specific moment where you felt like your dog read your mind? That situation where you came home emotionally wrecked and they knew before you said a single word. Has that happened to you? Tell me in the comments because I am dying to read those stories. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, right now is the perfect moment. Hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming because the most incredible part of the whole video is still ahead. Stay with us. Most of us learned from a young age that a dog with a wagging tail is a happy dog. It's almost an axiom of daily life. But science came along and complicated that axiom in the most fascinating way possible. It turns out it's not just about whether the tail is wagging, it's about which direction it wags. When your dog sees something that triggers a positive emotional response, their owner coming home, a family friend they haven't seen in a while, that favorite ball you thought was lost forever, the tail wag shifts to the right. More amplitude, more emphasis on the right side. When, on the other hand, the dog faces something that makes them uncertain, something that puts them on alert, someone unfamiliar whose energy doesn't quite sit right, the wag shifts to the left. And the most extraordinary thing is this: other dogs can read it. Italian researchers conducted an experiment in which they showed dogs videos of other dogs wagging their tails. When the video showed a tail shifting to the right, the watching dogs remained calm, relaxed, with no signs of alertness. But when the video showed a tail shifting to the left, the observing dogs' heart rates increased. Their bodies responded automatically to that signal, as if they had received a warning message in a language they don't need to learn because it's inscribed in their biology. And it doesn't end there. The height of the tail also communicates something. A tail held high and moving with energy signals confidence, enthusiasm, readiness for interaction. A tail held low and moving slowly, almost carefully, can indicate submission, appeasement, or a kind of nonverbal apology. Your dog isn't just being friendly when they wag their tail. They're using a complex, nuanced, multi-layered communication system that comes coded in their DNA from long before the concept of a household pet ever existed. And they've been using it with you every single day, waiting for you to finally start listening. There's something a little exciting and a little overwhelming about realizing that. Your dog has been talking to you this whole time, and you're only just beginning to learn the language. Everything we've looked at so far, the specific evolution to read human signals, the ability to recognize your voice among thousands, the facial reading system directed exclusively at people like you, the vocabulary of the tail, all of that extraordinary architecture has a single point of convergence, a mechanism that explains everything, and that, once you understand it, makes every glance from your dog carry a completely different meaning. In 2015, a study published in the journal Science, one of the most rigorous scientific publications in the world, made headlines in every language. The study was conceptually simple, but its implications were monumental. Researchers asked dog owners and their animals to simply look each other in the eyes. Nothing more, no commands, no toys, no food as incentive. Just sustained eye contact between humans and their dogs. And they measured oxytocin levels in both, before and after that moment. The results were extraordinary. Both the dogs and their owners showed a significant increase in oxytocin levels after that shared gaze. And to understand the magnitude of what that means, oxytocin is the bonding hormone. It's the same neurochemical compound that surges in a mother's brain when she holds her newborn in her arms for the very first time. The biological glue of the most unconditional love that exists between human beings. When your dog looks at you, their brain releases the same chemistry we use to bond with our babies. And when you look back at them, yours does too. This isn't emotional projection. This isn't the wishful thinking of someone who loves their animal a little too much. This is a documented, measurable, laboratory reproducible biological loop. A bonding cycle that your dog activates simply by looking at you, and that feeds back on itself when you respond. Now connect that discovery to everything we've seen before. Your dog evolved to read your face, to follow your cues, to recognize your voice among 1,000 others, to store your scent in their brain's reward center as the most pleasurable experience they know. And all of that evolutionary work, all those tens of thousands of years of development, was building towards something. Toward that moment when two beings from completely different species can look each other in the eyes and release the same chemistry of love. Evolution didn't build an animal that tolerates your presence. It built an animal that is neurologically bonded to you. One that isn't just happy when you're nearby, but that is biologically designed to find in you their most important point of reference in the universe. Your dog doesn't see you as their owner when they look at you. They don't see you as the person who pays the vet bills or decides when it's time for a walk. They see you as the presence that their most ancient brain, the one governing instincts and primary emotions, recognizes as fundamental, as irreplaceable. For them, you're not a generic human. You're you. That specific person, that particular tone of voice, that pattern of scent, that distinctive way of looking. And their entire biology was built to find you, recognize you, and bond with you in the deepest way their nature allows. Your dog sees you, just you, and to them that is absolutely everything. Knowing all of this is one thing, but what actually changes when you integrate it? It changes the way you interpret every small behavior your dog shows. Those things you perhaps took for granted, those that maybe seem like habit or just automatic responses, suddenly take on a completely different dimension. When your dog gets up from where they're comfortably resting just to come lie next to you, even though there's no practical reason to do so, that's not a coincidence. Their brain just made an active decision based on that neurochemical bond. They choose to be close to you because your presence literally produces well-being at a hormonal level. When they insist on following you into the bathroom, when they trail you from room to room, when they sit right at your feet while you work at the computer, it's not because they don't understand the concept of personal space. It's because for them, being where you are is the position of greatest safety and greatest pleasure that exists. It's their deepest comfort zone. When they stare at you intently while you eat, yes, there's clearly some gastronomic hope involved. But there's also something more. They're processing your face, reading your emotional state, constantly updating their emotional map of how you're doing in this moment. It's affective vigilance, sustained attention toward the most important person in their world. And when they growl or bark at something approaching, when they tense up and go on alert in response to something they perceive as a threat while you're present, they're not just acting out of uncontrolled instinct. They're responding to one of the most primal functions of that bond, mutual protection. They take care of you too. They also put you at the center of their priorities when it comes to safety. Everything has a logic. Everything has a root. And that root is 15,000 years of shared evolution that built one of the most extraordinary relationships that has ever existed between two different species. There's something I want to make very clear, because I think we sometimes hold on to just the beautiful part and forget about the part that most directly concerns us. If your dog is biologically designed to bond with you in this deeply profound way, if their neurology predisposes them to place you at the center of their emotional world, that comes with a responsibility we often don't fully grasp. The level of stress a dog experiences when left alone for hours isn't a quirk or a dramatic exaggeration. It's a direct consequence of that incredibly powerful bond. For an animal whose brain was built to seek out your presence, your prolonged absence has a real and measurable impact. It doesn't mean you can never leave the house. It means it's worth thinking about how we handle those transitions, what tools we can give them so that time without us is less stressful. It also means that the way we communicate with them matters enormously. Not in the way we used to think, issuing commands and waiting for obedience, but as genuine interaction between two beings who are reading each other all the time. Your tone of voice, the tension in your body, the expression on your face, all of that is being processed constantly by a brain that evolved over millennia to understand you. When you're anxious, they pick up on it. When you're relaxed, they do too. We are more transparent to them than we are to most people in our lives. And that is at once a reminder of how deep this bond truly is, and a call to be more present, more aware, more committed to the relationship. Because that relationship, according to everything science has been able to document, is reciprocal. Not in the sense that it's identical on both sides, because clearly it isn't, but in the sense that both of us are transformed by it. Your dog changed you too? Probably more than you realize. With everything we've covered, it might seem like we already know everything about this bond. But the truth is that researchers are becoming increasingly convinced that we're only beginning to understand the magnitude of what happens between humans and dogs. There are aspects of canine behavior that remain genuinely mysterious. Dogs that appear to anticipate epileptic seizures in their owners minutes before they happen, with a precision that baffles modern medicine. Animals that detect certain types of cancer through scent, with accuracy rates that surpass some available diagnostic methods. Dogs that display grieving behaviors not all that different from those exhibited by humans in the face of losing someone they love. How do we explain those things with what we know today? With difficulty. And that difficulty is itself a signal that we're dealing with something whose depth we haven't finished plumbing. The science of the human-canine bond is a young, active field, full of discoveries that keep arriving. And each new finding seems to confirm the same thing, that the relationship between our species and dogs is unique, is profound, and is far more complex than any of us imagined back when we simply thought we had a dog at home. You don't have a dog at home. You have a being whose biology was shaped across tens of thousands of years, specifically to find you, recognize you, and bond with you in the deepest way that nature allows. That's not a pet. That's something considerably more extraordinary than all of that. So the next time you get home after a long day and that four-legged creature greets you as if 10 years had passed since they last saw you, stop for a moment, look them in the eyes, because now you know what's happening in that instant. The brain just released oxytocin, the same neurochemical compound of the most unconditional love. Your scent just activated their reward center. Your face, which they've been reading since you became part of their life, is telling them exactly how you feel without you having said a word. And that tail moving with an energy that seems impossible to contain, it's shifting to the right. Because what they feel when they see you is every positive thing their biology is capable of processing. Your dog doesn't see you as their human when they look at you. They see you as the reason their brain releases its most powerful bonding chemistry. They see you as the presence for which they evolved over 15,000 years. They see you as the center of their emotional world, the anchor of their safety, the frequency of voice that calms them when nothing else can. Your dog sees you. Only you, and to them, that is absolutely everything. Hey, you made it all the way here. That tells me you love your dog as much as I love mine, and that deserves a massive round of applause. Now it's your turn. In the comments, tell me which piece of information hit you the hardest. Was it the oxytocin one? The fact that your scent activates their reward center? Or that tail detail that you'll never look at the same way again? Tell me everything. And if this video made you see your furry companion through completely different eyes, share it with someone who also has a dog, because this information deserves to reach everyone who loves them. Subscribe if you haven't already. We have so much more content about animal behavior, science, and the incredible connection between humans and dogs. We'll see you in the next video, and give your dog a big hug from all of us over here.